What's up everybody? Alex Corey here with cultivatedchange.com. We are back with our last video in our home beginner workout series. This is going to be shoulders. Shoulder day is one of my least favorite days just because it's so brutal. Shoulders are definitely one of my weak links, so it doesn't take a whole lot to exhaust them. And I have to plan exercises and programming very carefully to actually grab all of the muscles involved in the shoulder and not tire the main ones out and neglect some of the underdeveloped ones. We're going to go over 3 basic exercises and then a finisher. We'll start with a full warm-up since shoulder mobility is paramount, and I've already impinged my shoulder twice. We'll go into our first big lift, which is going to be the overhead press, staple in any full body workout. We'll go into a variation of a lateral raise, followed by a variation of a rear fly to hit the posterior, the rear deltoid. And then we will do a finisher, which is going to be a combination of a couple exercises, high rep, just to burn everything out. Let's get started. We're going to do a string of shoulder mobility warm-ups. This shouldn't take a ton of time. We're going to use a band. You don't need a band, you can just do this with your arms if you want, but I find the band to be useful. I can feel everything warming up faster. So we're going to start with some band pull-aparts, which we did in our chest video for the same purpose, just to get the rotator cuff muscles activated. We're going to go to a band full overhead stretch like that, just to get that scapula moving. We're gonna then go into a series of quick exercises with a plate that I have. It's a 5-pound weighted plate. You can use 10 pounds, you can use anything that you can grab that's flat, anything that's not super heavy, and I'll show you when we get there. But I'm gonna fast forward through most of these once you get an initial couple reps out of the way, as I've introduced these in most of my videos. Let's get going. It's going to be about 20 reps of a band pull apart. I don't know if you guys heard that, but this shoulder, which is the one I impinged, was cracking throughout that entire thing. And that's why I do that. Just get everything in there a little loose, warm, and limber. Impingement is when the tendon of the glenohumeral joint gets trapped underneath the bone of that glenoid socket. It causes some interesting shooting pains and just general discomfort if everything's not warm. Most of the positions that I'm going to go over in this video will be with respect to someone who has shoulder injuries, just because they're so common. There's no reason not to do them anyway. When we get there, I'll explain it. There's no point in not trying to actively avoid that just because it makes everything else so miserable. Let's now go into our our plate exercises. I'm going to use this thing. This is just a little 2.5, 5-pound plate. Weight's not important. What's important is the motions. This is going to be a number of movements that just rotate the shoulder socket in all directions, so just follow along. Shoulders should be limber. If they're not, do that plate exercise another round. So those 10 reps of each movement. Some of them, because both arms were involved at the same time, I did 20. I'll put it up on the screen, followed just by some wind circles. If your shoulders aren't limber, you should be able to do full range of motion like that without any significant pain. Go through that circuit again. And if you still have pain, possible you just have shoulder injuries, and shoulder specific corrective exercise might be beneficial in that case instead of putting pressure on it. We'll do plenty of videos of that later. We'll go into our first main exercise. Our first real exercise is going to be the staple of all easily overloaded shoulder exercises, the overhead press. You can call this the military press. Military press is traditionally a press using an Olympic bar going straight up without any knee movement, which is just a rigid overhead press. We're going to be a little more flexible just because there's no need to adhere to any rigid movement, especially when you're just learning an exercise. But this will be your main shoulder movement. Shoulder has 3 primary muscles. And they're called your deltoids. So you have your anterior deltoid, it's the one in the front. You have your medial deltoid, which is the bulk of it, and that's the big one right on the side. And your posterior deltoid, which is your behind the shoulder one, or closest to your back. That's the one that's usually most underdeveloped, just because people don't use a ton of pulling motion a lot. Your rotator cuff assists in almost all of these, especially anything where your arm gets pulled behind your back. It's not technically a shoulder, it's a back musculature, but those 4 muscles that we went over in the back video, 2 teres and supraspinatus and infraspinatus, assist in all of these. So rotator cuff definitely needs work. Basic premise of the overhead press is we're using the band, single stranded band again. Put the band under you. If you're just starting, bring it up here. You'll see a lot of people doing this for an overhead press. This is fine. So that's the basic motion. That doesn't create a lot of space in your shoulder socket. So the most comfortable and least likely to further any injury you have position is about right here. So it's about 45 degrees into your body, about halfway through. Right there creates the most space for the ball and socket joint to move around without bumping into anything, especially if you've had any impingement like I have twice. So right here, start, and then just press up. If you're just getting the movement, straight up and back down slowly is fine, just like that. When you're doing this, make sure to squeeze your butt and brace your core, or else the tendency is going to want to be to arch your lower back and turn it into an upper chest press. Not advisable. You'll feel in your lower back. I do, at least. So squeeze your butt, have your knees a little bent, more of an athletic stance. Brace your core, and then press up. And it's not straight up. Straight up will actually put your hands in front of your body over your feet. So you want to press up and back a little bit. Just so fully extend your arms. Your arms fully extended will be just behind your head. And you can do that for as many as it takes your shoulders to get tired if you're using a band. So for beginner, just do this until you feel your shoulders start. Your shoulders are basically the only thing working. Your triceps will work a little bit in here as well. You might feel a little in your upper chest because your arms are coming in front of your body a little bit. The better version of that, in my opinion, your shoulder actually is fully flexed whenever it comes in a little bit. So if you try to touch your hands together at the top of that motion, so squeeze in at the top, that's your shoulder's fully flexed position. Not here, but there. And if you make sure you squeeze, you'll feel your shoulders contract a little bit extra. For a beginner, if you can do that 20 times, just get a ton of blood in that area, that's great. That'll work your anterior and medial delt quite a bit. Your posterior deltoid gets in there too, just because it's in, this motion works everything. It doesn't come into play quite as much unless we get our arm, try to get our arm behind our back. So next exercise we'll capitalize, or rather our fly will capitalize on that a little more. But if you have a band, do that for about 20 reps, 3 times, and you should feel that in your shoulders. For a more intermediate, or just the next step for a beginner, if you have light dumbbells like we've been using, again, here rather than here, just to create more room in the socket, allow your shoulders to, it gives you a better range of motion. Now you can try to isolate certain parts of your shoulder. If you hold it out front and go up like that, I find it's harder to move the weight that way just because there's more rocking going on. So again, 45-degree angle, out about here, hold the mat shoulder, and you might be different here. You have to feel where your shoulders feel most compacted. So if you have any tendonitis issues, since your elbow is dipping below 90, this might hurt a little bit, and your stopping point might be here. For me, it's right here. It's all where you feel the best, and you should not feel anything twinging. So about 45 degrees right here, same motion, up, press in. If you don't like the instability of turning a little as you go up, you can do a straight press like this, just to get the motion. Or if you want, there is a little bit of an extra squeeze, as if you come up, you also turn. And at the end, this becomes more of a military press. So it'll be like you have a bar in your hand. If you're trying to practice, so you can eventually use an Olympic bar, up, turn, and here will be an Olympic bar ending position. If you're just going for dumbbells and just going for that contraction, about a 45 angle at the top, slow back down, 45-degree angle, slow back down, just like that. And if that's your intermediate, 12 reps is great. Times 3 would be perfect. For a more advanced workout, and you can use, this is the most overloaded, easily overloaded shoulder exercise. 30s I find are plenty for me, and that's more of a strength building. So that's in the 5 to 12 range, depending on how tired I am. Since I've been doing a lot of demos, we'll see how many I get out of this. But same thing with these, you might need to get them up there first. Knees a little bent, glute squeeze, core tucked, and then push, squeeze. Just remember to breathe when you're generating force. So breathe out, squeeze, and breathe in, back down, push, and back down, and do that for 12 reps. Now push press is the exact same motion, except you're going to use some momentum at the base to get the weight off of the most challenging part. The hardest part of this, right here, because you have no momentum, so a push press will just be down and push. So you're going to use most of your arms, but you're going to use your explosive force of your glutes and your legs to get the weight off your shoulders. Push press is just as fine. It allows you to cheat a little bit, so your lower back may get compromised, but once you actually learn the solid basic motion of this, you can start doing push presses or incorporate them at the end of your set. If you're on your last set of a overhead press, you're just trying to maximally tax your shoulders. At the end, start coming down. Whenever you're going through the eccentric phase and you're down here, you can do a little bit of a squat at the bottom and then explode up, just to get those few reps out. Understanding there's more stress on your lower back. So you need to make sure you're squeezing everything so you're not arching. You'll see a lot of people when they're trying to move a ton of weight with that. At the end, they'll be like this, and the low back is arching. You still need to have flat lower back. Your knees can bend a little bit, but make sure everything is tight and all that you're moving is your shoulders. There will be an arcing motion. So it will be arcing like that. It's not a straight up and down path. It doesn't need to be. If you're using an Olympic bar with a ton of weight, it does need to be, because you don't want the weight to come out in front of you. Your center of gravity gets thrown off. Dumbbells are perfect just because there's no reason the path needs to be anything other than centered over your body. That was definitely the hardest shoulder one we're gonna do. Hardest in that it takes the most amount of energy and it's the most taxing on your nervous system. These will be just as exhausting to your shoulder, but you probably won't be as winded afterwards. So it depends on how intense you go. But next one is gonna be a variation on the lateral raise. So the lateral raise is just where you bring your arms out to your side, and it's lateral just because that's the lateral part of your body, and it's just traditionally this. So you'll see people with dumbbells doing that, or there are machines where your arms are here, you have pads on the side, and you just do this. Those are perfectly fine. The only reason I don't like those is because there's not a lot of variation in angles. So if you have shoulder injuries, this isn't the best position. Your shoulder injuries are likely to get exacerbated anytime your elbow is at the same level as your shoulder and it's rotated internally like that. It's called pouring the pitcher. This is not advisable. So the angle of your forearm dictates how much you'll feel your shoulder move even if you just turn your thumb up. So I always try to think of thumb up. This is almost as bad, so that doesn't help as much. So always make sure if you have shoulder issues that your arm or your elbow, when it's at the level of your shoulder, is a little below it. So you want to have your thumb pointed back. That's creating the most space in that socket. So for the lateral raise, if you're going to do a traditional lateral raise, and this is just the band, like that, the further extended your arms are, the more shoulders involved and the harder it becomes, because you're the moment arm, you have less leverage, it's further away from your body. So if you are just beginning, a little bend is perfectly acceptable. So that works just fine. If you want to get a full shoulder contraction, meaning all the pressure on your shoulders and no other real muscles assisting, obviously it has to work through your entire arm, but arms fully extended like that. Remember, thumbs up, so you're rotated externally a little bit. With a band, you can do, again, 10-20 reps of this, just like that. And that does work the medial head of your deltoid mostly. I enjoy doing a variation that puts it in the front a little bit. A lot of people don't incorporate your anterior deltoid, your front delt, into their shoulder work because you get a lot of anterior deltoid involvement in any pushing motion. So any of your presses is going to involve that. That's where most of the pressure will go if you're not paying attention to form on a bench press or anything like that, a dip right onto your front delt. But it's always good to work it, since a stronger muscle is less likely to be hurt and it can take more weight in any of your other main movements, so it will function as an accessory muscle or an antagonist, or rather an agonist like it's supposed to complement your other bigger ones. So we're going to just go slightly in front of our shoulders for this motion. So thumbs up again. You can do this too, you're just more likely to rotate, so keep thumbs up, and then just like that, and you're going at about a 30-degree angle. Let me move over here a little bit. Again, so up to your shoulders, 30-degree angle. You don't want them perfectly out to the side like that. You want them in front of your body a little bit. 30 degrees right there. Stop at your shoulder. You don't need to go any higher. You can pause at the top just to make sure you have pressure on your shoulder and then resist it back down. That's why bands are good. There's constant tension and the force of gravity is working straight down on you. And again, if you're just beginning, you don't need to go arms all the way out. Or if you are a little more advanced, arms all the way out and then fight it back down. Do that for 10 to 20 reps. If you're using a dumbbell, same motion. We'll get our 10s back. And this is about as heavy as I'll go with this. 10, 15s. If you want to go for very low reps, strength work, maybe 20s with those, but people end up swinging them. You'll see a lot of people doing this deal, using a lot of momentum. Without the momentum, let me turn a little bit so you can get the angle. 30 degrees, again, right about there. Slow back down, 30 degrees. That's arms fully extended, right there. Right there. You can go out to the side if you want. That puts more of it on the medial head. Right there would be fine. Just make sure to keep your, I always extend my thumb so I'm hitting the top of the dumbbell so I know that my thumb is pointing up instead of this, which even hurts just doing that. So dumbbell you want at that angle when you're doing it. So up, fight it back down. Breathe when you're going up, breathe in, back down. So variation of this, since usually you can't use a ton of weight, if you want to really feel it, are called 1.5s. That just means you're going to go 1 up, half back down, back up, all the way down. So in brief, it's going to go up, halfway, back up, all the way down. So 1, half, that's it. That just puts, there's no relaxation. Right here, your shoulder gets a chance to relax. This is full extension. So if you come out to here and only come halfway back down, your shoulder never gets a break. And go back up. This is the toughest part of the motion. Right here, can't use any momentum. It's all in your shoulder. If you're doing those, if you can get 12 out of that, that's a good day. So intermediate, do that with dumbbells if you have them for 12. If you don't, with a band, do 1.5s with the band. Beginner, just do the full motion, whatever feels best to you. Arms in or arms fully extended. 10 to 20 reps would be great. Do that 3 times. Just so you can, there's less musculature to think about bracing. So we're still gonna be leaning forward a little bit just because that's the easiest way to hit that posterior deltoid. These should really be 5s. This is gonna be difficult, but in like this, so it's easier to externally rotate, brace, and then bring it back just like that, fight it on the way down. So 1, half, 1, down, 1, half, 1, down. I can do maybe 10 of those with a 10-pound weight. Just really squeezing at the top there. You can do this with band too. It's just a little more fluid with the dumbbell because you don't have to fight the movement of the band that you would have pinned under your knees. Just like that, head bent again. And do that for as many as you can, basically. That's the only thing that's going to specifically target that rear delt. All right, this is going to be a burnout. It's going to be our finisher. I don't actually know what this is called, and I'm sure it has a name, but I've never bothered to look it up, and I kind of just do this myself. So I'm sure this is a thing. Probably pretty common, but not sure what it's called. It's going to be a cross between everything we've done. These should be 5s again, because this is going to be hard. 5, 7.5, 10, 2, whatever you need. But this is meant to just kill all the shoulder muscles. It's going to, we're going to come up like this, palms up, neutral like that. So up, we're going to come across, Squeeze, come back as far as you can, back down. We're going to do that as many times as you can. So I'm just going to fast forward until I get tired, and we'll see how draining this is. Last one, fight this back. And there's just a lot of lactic acid at that point, and you just feel like at that point you're not even doing it all with your shoulder, you're just trying to like fling the weight up. So once you get to that point, it's a good thing to stop, just because your shoulder is, that's when your shoulders will get injured, is when you get tired and sloppy and you just start throwing weights around and not actually contracting and going in with the real motion. So that's definitely a burnout. Light weights would be great for that, or just even body weight. You're keeping your elbows elevated so much, your shoulders just always under tension. You can do a whole bunch more variations of that with 1.5s, but that's good. I do that once at the end. There's no need to do that 3 times. And your chest will get involved there, especially during the abduction phase. Chest will get in there. Sometimes I'll do that on a chest day as well, so that's a great shoulder and chest finisher. That concludes our home workout series. We've done all the major body parts at this point. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Leave in the comments what you guys would like to see. I do have plans to do more interesting outside exercises, since we're gaining some daylight at this point and getting enough nice days, at least in parts of the country, where I feel like doing a workout outside. If it's anywhere above 50 degrees and sunny, I want to be outside getting some vitamin D. So I'll do some of those exercises. If you want any specific ones for in the gym, let me know. And we are still doing our New Year enrollment for our virtual and in-person health coaching, personal training. Check out the link below, and until next time.